Welcome back. I'm Bill LeMain. We're visiting with Dr. Michael Walden. And Doctor, everyone, I think almost everyone has noticed just about everything is costing more money. I'm not even really sure where to start, but let's start with I think the one that was first obvious to most, and that was the gas pump. It's expensive, and I know it's come down a little bit. What's driving that? Why is it so incredibly expensive in such a short period of time?
A couple of factors here. When COVID hit in 2020, people stopped driving. Part of the reason that people stopped driving is businesses were closed. We were told to stay at home, et cetera. So gas prices plunged, and actually a lot of the production in our country of oil and ultimately gas from the refineries stopped. Once the economy began to come back in the latter part of 2020 and into 21, those facilities started to go back online. So we actually saw production increasing, but as spending, again, I was alluding to what we talked about in the first segment, as people had money to spend, they were spending faster than what the oil and the gas people could keep up with. So we actually have seen gas prices rising really since mid-2021. Certainly the Ukraine situation put a spike there because there was a lot of concern about, we didn't really know where that situation was going. We actually have a situation where we have U.S. troops facing Russian troops. That put a scare into the world. And anytime the world is scared, anything that's a commodity, which is a basic commodity, like oil, like wheat, like soybeans, is going to go up in price. So we had a little bit of a pullback in gas prices, but then we have the issue in our country. We've still not recovered in terms of oil production from where we were in 2021. And I think that the Biden administration, and again, I don't play politics here, but I think any reasonable person will look at the Biden administration and say their energy policy has been anti-fossil fuel. They wanted to promote renewables, and I get that, but I don't think we want to. My view is we don't want to sort of go all the way with renewables when we're not ready to go all the way with renewables, and I don't think we are. So the Biden administration has been, through regulatory powers and everything everyone knows about the Keystone Pipeline, they've been very hard on leasing and approving those leases. They have not been friendly to the oil market. Now we're a part of the oil market, but we're obviously not all the oil market. But I think domestically, the administration could have done more to encourage production to come back, and that would probably have taken a few 10, 20 cents off the price of gas. So again, it's a combination of supplies not there, worldwide supply has not reached where it was pre-pandemic, and then people trying to buy and spend more because they've got money to spend. Now, what that was resulted in, of course, is people now go to gas pump and they see, even though it's gotten a little better, it's still much higher than it was 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And what that does to a lot of people is they have to go to work, they have to go to school, they have to do certain things, so they've got to buy gasoline. They're cutting back elsewhere. They're cutting back on other things that they spend their money on. And one thing I think we hopefully we'll get to later in the program, Bill, is that could really work later through the year into putting us in a very precarious position. You're hearing more and more economists use the R word, recession, where we may be looking at that at the end of the year.
So what you're saying is you move money from one area to another, you're reducing your spending, and thus that does have an impact on the overall economy. What do you see for gas prices? This downward spike that we had seems to be driven by the strategic oil reserve that they released gasoline. I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but do you see this continuing to increase here in the near future?
I think we could. Hopefully, we're past the peak. I think in North Carolina, the peak and gas prices around $4.30, $4.35, something like that. We're down from that, and hopefully we'll go in that direction. But quite frankly, Bill, I think still Ukraine has a lot to do with it. Remember what I said, that whenever you have a period of uncertainty in the world, what people do, or what big businesses do, is they want to stock up on commodities. Because they're necessity to make the world go around. And so part of the reason for gas prices going up, well, obviously the big reason was oil prices went up. A big part of the reason for oil prices going up is that businesses and others were trying to buy oil before maybe it wasn't even available at all. Same thing with other commodities. So what this means is if the Ukraine war continues, but if it looks like the Russians are being held off and the Ukrainians may be winning or they may be going to a standstill, the world would probably look at that positively, and a lot of fear about where that war could take us would be dissipated. On the other hand, if the Russians on their new offensive make headway toward Kyiv, and especially if they start to use either chemical, or I guess some have said they've already used chemical or nuclear, that takes us to a new level of anxiety, and we could see oil prices go up. So if you put me on the spot and say, Walden, where do you think oil gas prices are going to be 4 or 5 months from now? I'll say slightly lower, but there's always a possibility they go in the other direction.
Well, that's a little bit of good news. Let me ask you about the housing market. Is it good news that your house increased in value? I mean, literally skyrocketed to new heights. Is that good news for home owners and overall the housing market, with the interest rates obviously going to rise here?
A little background here, and a lot of this is very important in this area, given we're a growing area. The Federal Reserve, who is a big part of our lives, whether people know it or not, they really have a lot of control over the economy, especially when COVID started in 2020. The standard role for the Federal Reserve to do when there's danger in the economy is to make it easy for people to borrow and spend. So they pushed interest rates, which they have a great deal of say over, to very, very low levels, historic low levels. So your mortgage rate, if you went out to buy a house, I think at one point you get a 30-year fixed for around 3%. I remember the first house I bought, it was a double digit, over 10%. So the housing market really did well, surprisingly, during the COVID recession. People were buying houses, and they were buying houses faster than builders could build. And so you had prices going up. And yes, that does help people who own homes. I own a home, you own a home. The assessment goes up, et cetera. Now, your property tax bill also eventually will go up, so that's not good news. But it obviously makes it harder for people, young people especially, to buy, people who are buying their first house. And then you add to that bill in the market that we're in, the Triangle here in Central North Carolina, which is a hot economic market, one of the hottest in the country. People are moving here. Companies are moving here. That's all bringing in new spending power. And a lot of those households, especially those households who are coming here who are earning maybe six figures, they're wanting to buy a house. That adds to the fuel on the housing market. Now, what could turn this around, and I do think it is going to maybe not totally turn it around, but it's going to subdue the market, is the fact that the Federal Reserve now has totally done a 180 from keeping interest rates low to stimulate the economy. Now they're raising interest rates, and they'll continue to do this in order to destimulate the economy, slow the economy down. That means mortgage rates right now, 30-year fixed rates are up, closing in on 5.5%. They're going to go higher. That's going to take a little bit of steam out of the housing market.
We're visiting with Dr. Michael Walden, and I want you to stick around, because when we come back, we're going to pick your brain. We're going to find out, what would you do? How would you fix this, Dr. Walden? You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but overall, it seems like this is going to continue, at least for the foreseeable future. We'll find out from Dr. Walden when we come back.